It's my great pleasure to now bring to your screens our next speaker. This talk will cover the anti patterns being witnessed when teams and organizations use incorrect definitions of CD and how those hurt the final outcomes. The discussion will include examples of these problems and how solving them improves the overall functioning of your organization. Our speaker is a very respected name in the DevOps galaxy, armed with over 2 decades of experience of delivering supply chain solutions for very large enterprises. He's the founder and former lead for the Walmart DevOps Dojo and co-author of Modern Cybersecurity: Tales from the Near Distant Future. Without much further ado, let's all welcome to our screens Mr. Bryan Finster.
Hi everyone, I'm Bryan Finster. I'm a value stream architect for Defense Unicorns, and today I want to talk to you about a community project I'm involved in called minimumcd.org, where we're trying to help people solve some of the common challenges we see with implementation of continuous delivery. So first, let's define what we mean by continuous delivery. So CD is the ability to get all changes of all types into production safely, quickly, and in a sustainable way. And this is something that, a lot of people focus on the tools. Really what we're trying to do is create an entirely new workflow. The reason we care about this so much is that we believe teams should have better lives. That those of us who've been working this way for a while, we know that continuous delivery is better for the teams. It's also better for organizational outcomes and the outcomes of the end user. CD just literally makes everything better. And when we were piloting this in the organization I worked at before, the fact that we were just trying to deliver things more frequently than once a quarter. That was really our initial goal. And we didn't really understand the impact it would have on the teams until we were doing it. And the morale on the teams was so much better, and the interactions with the end users were so much better. And this is amazing, right? I mean, we were pushing everything we could to get more teams adopting this, just to make sure that everybody could feel what we were feeling. And then in 2018 I'm losing the date, but the Accelerate came out and it confirmed that. They said that continuous delivery improves delivery performance, quality, improves the culture, reduces burnout, reduces deployment pain. And this was matched up entirely with what we were saying. And not in just the organization I worked for, but in the organizations my co-collaborators on minimumcd.org worked for. And so what do? Of course, we want to encourage leadership to push for this. So we talk about, look, Accelerate says that high-performing organizations do continuous delivery, and so and this is the sort of outcomes they have. And the challenge we have with this is that what management hears is that high-performing organizations deliver faster, and this is where the problems kind of start. And we've seen this repeatedly in our organizations and other organizations. We need CD, do CD, and that's where the problems start. And so there's a couple of common problems that we're seeing in various organizations. This is some of the things we're trying to solve. One is Dunning-Kruger delivery, right? And that's where we get all the tools, and then everybody gets pipelines, and now everybody's doing CD, mission accomplished. And then what happens is we have failures. You see a lot of change going in without a lot of the underlying processes that have to happen. So you're actually doing continuous delivery, and defects happen, critical failures and instability. And so then what you have is CD won't work here. Our organization's too complicated for CD. It's far too risky, or you're just not mature enough for CD, and then CD gets banned. Now, not only this is something that literally we've seen happen, is where an organization says you can't do CD here because it's too dangerous, which is bad for the organization, it's bad for the end users, and it's bad for the teams. And another example we have is where you have CD and name only. I've seen this repeated quite frequently as well. It says CD means we deliver on demand, so we deliver on demand once a month, and our customers don't need more frequent changes than that, which is entirely false. And then they say, well, we're doing CD, but we're not seeing the improvements that the Accelerate talks about. And CD is just a buzzword. Let's just stop this newfangled, buzzwordy thing and go back to what we're doing. But why? Well, if you're delivering once a month on demand and calling that CD, you have large changes that provide slow feedback. You don't focus on improving your quality gates. You can't discover the org structure issues that are causing you to only be able to deliver once a month. And so, of course, nothing improves. And continuous delivery is the tool for improvement. So we need to focus on real CD. And the last one I want to talk about is feature pipelines, where we only use CD for features, but for hot fixes, that process is way too slow. So what we need to do is we just have a hot fix process, or we make it up on demand because we can't use our common flow because it takes too long to run it. The problem is that leaves us with drama-driven delivery, right? It's we're inventing these workarounds, and it causes a dumpster fire to become a giant house fire. I've lived this many times in my career. The thing with continuous delivery is that CD is the only way we should be delivering. We always use our emergency process as the normal flow. We use daily change to validate that our emergency process works, so it's habit when we have an emergency. So why do these failures happen? Well, CD was the goal. And I've seen lots of things where, something out there is the goal instead of what we're trying to achieve the goal. Well, CD is the tool. It's not the goal. We use continuous delivery as a method for improving organizational outcomes, not because CD is cool. So in 2021, a bunch of us gathered at the DevOps Enterprise Summit at the virtual bar, and we're talking about these problems and the challenges we're seeing, and just so much pain out there. And we thought, well, we could either gripe about it or we could help fix it. And because we're engineers, we decided to go for option 2. Let's help fix it. So we set a few goals, right? Let's define the minimum set of behaviors that are true in every context, that create challenges that the organization has to solve that will reduce pain and improve outcomes. I mean, why do we care if another organization works better? Well, we want every place to be an awesome place to work. Developers, end users, organizations should all live better lives. And we want, if we change jobs, to go to these places and not have to start from scratch and just have a great place to work. And so 3 days later, after hammering out a lot of details of what is the absolute minimum that should be true in every single context, whether you're delivering to edge, air-gapped environments, cloud, no matter what, the absolute minimums. We threw away anything that wasn't the minimum and put that in the list of good ideas. But to be minimally continuous delivery, this is what we came up with. And then later on, this is where we are today, is we have 37 global contributors. We have this 98 signatures is out of date. We get new signatures all the time. And one of our early contributors and signatories was Dave Farley, who was the author of the book Continuous Delivery. And we knew we were on the right track when Dave submitted a small wording change and signed and said, yes, I agree with this. And so what I want to talk to you today about is some of those core behaviors, not all of them, but some of the really critical ones that we talk about in here, why they're critical, and hopefully encourage you to go look at some of the other things and try these out in your organization. So what are these? First one is trunk-based development. This is strangely very controversial, but I think a lot of it comes to people not really understanding trunk-based development and why. But we have a firm definition for trunk-based development. It's either we're making changes directly to the trunk, or if we need branches for compliance reasons, that those branches originate from the trunk, reintegrate to the trunk, and are short-lived and removed. And why? Well, you have to test better to get this done, and one of the things we want is improved testing. It also means that we have to focus on engineering instead of trying to layer on process to get things done. We'd have fewer conflict resolution issues, fewer lost changes due to the conflict resolution. If you're focusing on the next thing, which is CI, then everything becomes just a smooth workflow and not change. So continuous integration, right? That's the next one. And this is core to trying to improve your team or your organization. And the definition of this is we integrate work to the trunk at least daily. We're about 85% confident that it's releasable. We have enough testing that we're like, this small change is releasable. And the other 15% happens later with other tests we'll talk about. But here's an example of a team that believes they're doing continuous integration because they're not following a hard definition of CI. They have a branch out here, and this is, one of our co-collaborators, this is from their organization. They have 407 branches on this repository. This branch is way ahead and way behind of master, but they think that they're doing continuous integration because they keep making changes to this branch. They're going to have a massive headache when they try to integrate it. So what this looks like, right, is that we're doing trunk-based development because you can't really do CI if you're using a complicated branching structure. It's far too painful. The time boxes won't allow it. Work integrates to the trunk at least daily. Work is tested with other work automatically on merge. Work does not break delivered work. This does not mean it's featured complete. It means that work does not break delivered work. And broken builds are fixed immediately. This is also a core workflow process. If we break the build, we as a team stop and fix the build. It doesn't matter who on the team committed that change. The teamwork is important because we didn't have processes hardened to the point where the build couldn't be broken. Well, and what does CI uncover? And I've seen this repeatedly with multiple teams, right? Is CI uncovers a lot of challenges we have to solve to get this workflow down. We have to get better at decomposing work. This is blocker number one on every team that's struggling is the work is too vague. We have to have a disciplined process around defining testable acceptance criteria. I highly recommend behavior-driven development for this. We also have to get better at testing, and testing generally suffers because the work is vaguely defined. I've seen that reported repeatedly as well. We have to get better at teamwork to get better at work decomposition and testing. We have to remove handoffs. We can't pass off quality to another team. We can't pass off approvals to another team and still have that CI workflow. We have to get all of this stuff fixed. And by driving down that batch size of how frequently we're delivering work, we find all of these issues. They become crystal clear. And overcoming these makes everything suck less and lets us focus on the real challenges around business problems instead of how to get the work actually done. Key driver of improved morale and improved testing, improved quality. Next is the delivery pipeline is the only path to any environment. We don't have a develop branch with a develop pipeline. We don't have a hot fix process that bypasses the pipeline. We focus on improving the pipeline and make it not only efficient but effective at preventing bad things from happening. It does it quickly. And the thing is we're testing the entire process. Okay, we're not using an untested process to make fixes because that's super dangerous. And why, right? Well, it lowers variability and risk. We always do the same thing every single time. Variability drives defects. It also forces us to take a look at how we're assessing quality. Do we have manual testing as a delivery gate? Do we have long running tests as a delivery gate? Do we have ineffective or flaky tests that we're ignoring all the time? We have to improve our quality gates to make it more efficient, more effective. And it reduces so much process overhead. We don't have to think about it. We make a change, we push it, and it goes down the pipeline and either breaks the pipeline or is available for production. It's also the final judge of releasable. We trust the pipeline because we encode all of our organizational norms around what releasable is into the pipeline. And that forces us to look at what we're manually verifying and find out how much of those are rules-based that should be in the pipeline, and how much of those are emotion, or how much of those are things around usability that should be continuously happening all the time, but should not be a delivery gate, because our delivery gate, we should be delivering very small changes all the time, and continuously improving usability. It's like Dave says, if the pipeline says everything looks good, that should be enough. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to actually implement continuous delivery. So with that, this is just a subset of some of the things that we say are the minimums. I encourage you to go look. But is this another maturity model? We're saying, well, you're not good enough. We're gating your definition of continuous delivery. No, it's not a maturity model. Our goal is to set challenges. It's a journey that we've all gone on, and these are challenges that we've all had to solve. And we're saying these are the minimum challenges to start seeing these expected outcomes. It's not that you're not doing CD. It's just that you're not going to see the improvements that CD brings if you don't go through the journey. measurable objectives to find and fix systemic problems in your organization, not just in the code. That these are all things we're saying that this is true or false. We either can or cannot do these things. And if we can't do them, why can't we? And let's go fix them. And so the real question is, where do we start? Where I started on the very first team where we were trying to figure this out was, why can't we put non-breaking code on the trunk today, and why can't we deliver today? And so what we do is, first, let's define what releasable means in our context so that we can then start embedding those rules into our pipeline. We had to fall passionately in love with testing. When we were first doing this, testing was one of those things where managers might say, oh, we don't have time to test. So the teams are like, oh, we've got to push it. We'll write the test later. Well, you couldn't do that anymore because it's far too scary to say, oh, we're going to deliver all the time and not test the code. You have to fall in love with testing, and not just, I know how to unit test, but understand good test architecture that will quickly verify or decertify an artifact in the pipeline. We had to really focus on those continuous integration behaviors, the teamwork, how do we break things down into tiny slices? You don't have a 5-day story. You've got a story that lasts a day or two. And then from there, how do I break that down into very small changes that I can push to the trunk every hour, every two, at least daily? But I've got to learn how to do evolutionary development so that I can push these changes in a non-breaking way and still make sure they're tested and get feedback that they're not breaking anything. We had to the manual verification of releasable, all that had to be automated, right? And we did that in a very systematic way. It wasn't one and done. We just started laying out all the validation steps and started automating them in sequence to reduce the amount of manual until it went to zero. And we had to focus on relentless improvement. Our retrospectives became, okay, how do we do this better? And the outcome that we had today was that, or at that time, was that the team my team went from quarterly deliverables to delivering to the end user and getting feedback multiple times a day. And it took much less time than you can imagine. And we didn't have any coaching. We were learning it all from scratch. And the reason why this is so good is that, it allows us to optimize for sleep. We have a method of delivery that not only makes it so we're delivering higher quality things, but when things break, and they will, we can fix them quickly instead of spending hours or days trying to resolve issues. So we need help. This, again, is something that's been going on for a while, and it's like any other open source project. We work in our spare time. We need contributors. We're trying to collect experience reports. We're trying to collect, stories or methods people can use to move to trunk-based development from other terrible branching patterns, experiences people have had with implementing CI, and tips and tricks. Anything to help the community. We also would love to have people help translate. We've got the core practices translated right now into, 5 languages outside of English, including Finnish. We want suggestions on things and discussion around the community, and we want people to share success stories. We want all of these things. We need the community's help. This isn't us saying this is what it is. It's like, we think this is a good idea. Please help us make this idea better. And, with that, you can get to minimumcd.org. You can see the GitHub address if you want to submit a pull request. And you can reach me. I'm Bryan Finster on LinkedIn and on Twitter. You can see the series of blog posts I have around all things DevOps at rant.bryanfinster.com. I do a little bit of why can't we do this better, quite a bit. And I have a personal project out there if you just want to spend some time, venting a little bit. It's sadmf.com, which is my take on a scaling framework. So with that, thanks so much for listening. Hopefully you find this useful. Hopefully the information on the site helps you. Several people have said it does. I'd love more feedback that we can put on the site. And thanks very much, and thanks for the opportunity.